Hey, what's going on, everyone? So first, a quick news update. Some friends of mine in the band Celestial Ember have released a new progressive metal album called All Real Numbers. And on that album, they were kind enough to allow me to do a guest solo, a little guest guitar solo on one of their songs. So my guest solo is on the song called The Sieve. So what I thought might be interesting to some of you would be if I went over the solo and talked about pretty much my thought process throughout every step of the way. Maybe learn a little bit more strategies that you could use in your own solos or in your own songwriting. So first of all, if you haven't heard my solo yet, here's what it sounded like. Wondering why I have this guitar out specifically, my D'Angelico. When the band contacted me initially to do the guest solo, they specifically requested that I play with kind of a jazz sound. I could have obviously just used my Telecaster, but I decided to go with the jazz box because I thought it would give it a more unique sound, something that you don't really hear in prog metal a lot. And also because it just gives us a very old school kind of tone that'll make it sound more like the jazz style that they want. So usually when someone tells me I want your playing to sound jazzier, to me that means I'm going to use a little bit more outside notes. I'm going to use a little bit more chromaticism in my playing. You know, all half steps. It means I'm going to encircle more of my notes. Right? Focus a little bit more on arpeggio work, not so much about scale work. These are the things that kind of go into making something sound more like jazz as opposed to like a rock sound or a blues sound or anything like that. And of course, I'm going to use a lot of blues scale. So the riff they sent me is this. Interesting because it's written in patterns of 6 plus 6 plus 7. It'd be like 19 would be the meter. So when I was recording this solo, I would basically improvise over the riff however much I can, and whatever ideas I really liked, I would say, okay, I'm going to remember that. I'm going to keep that recording, and then I'm going to kind of splice it in to wherever I feel like that makes the most sense. And I basically just kept doing that, and then putting in parts that I thought sounded really good until I had a full complete solo. So at first I analyzed the notes and I noticed that they're playing C, they're playing D, they're playing G, and they're playing F. All of these notes it actually gives me a lot of options because they're not specifically playing the E flat or the E natural. Now once they get to the G sharp or the A flat, it makes it a little more obvious, okay, they're probably thinking in terms of like C minor. But whenever they're playing the first riff, I actually have a little bit more agency to go into like a major sound. So that's one thing I thought of doing is I decided to switch between going from C minor to C major so that it kind of confuses the listener. But to start off simple, I decided to think, okay, so C minor, what chords are in C minor? F minor 7 is in C minor. So right away, I decided I'm going to try to highlight this F minor sound along with the notes they're playing, which all together would give me this kind of F minor 13 sound. So I start off with some sparse playing because I don't want to play too much right away. So I went ahead and started with this. A few double stops starting on the F minor sound, F and A flat. And then after that, I pretty much just started thinking like C minor blues scale. And what I like about this line, once we end up on this note, that's where the band switches to the A flat. So effectively, I'm resolving to the sharp 11 there. something that kind of gives you the sound of modern jazz, is going to the extensions, not playing the butter notes, as Miles Davis said. So here I'm on the sharp 11 of the A flat. Another little blues lick. Playing around with that flat 5 from the C. And then for the next part, I remember when I was writing this solo, I was really into polymeters. I was really into specifically putting in groupings of 5 within timings that are not 5, and just seeing how it goes. So I started doing that with this. I'm just thinking C minor pentatonic starting from the B flat. That's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm playing groupings of 4, but then putting in a little 16th rest in between each one. So that gives us 5 16th notes at a time. And then after that, I land on the 9, kind of emphasize the 9 a little bit. And then here I have the first chromatic run. Landing on that G, which will be the 7th away from the A flat. So from there, I figure, okay, I just played a bunch of notes, so I should probably take a step back and play a little bit less now. So I'm on this note, and I just do these small little melodic ideas. Right? Like a small little sentence. You don't always have to play lots of notes. Sometimes you can just put like a little sentence in between just to get your point across. And then I play another variation. But this time I decided to take it into another direction. And that's where we start going into the more major sound. So right now I'm thinking A flat, like A flat Lydian basically. And then once I get to this point, I'm very close to this E natural here, which I'm thinking, okay, the E natural is going to be the major third of C major, so now I could go into the C major sound. And I basically go into that sound by highlighting the A minor 7 arpeggio, because A minor 7 is in C major. That's one thing you start to realize when you study a lot of jazz music, is that eventually a lot of the arpeggios you learn within the major scale, within all the scales you learn, you could interchange between them a lot during pretty much any kind of solo you're playing. Anyways, we go there. And I end up on that major 7 very briefly. And then here I'm thinking F major 7 arpeggio. And then I start heading back up for another chromatic run. Landing right on that A flat. But again, we want to think jazz, so after this, I decide to highlight all the upper extensions of A flat Lydian, so I go straight from here to the 5th, to the sharp 11, and I really like the sound of minor seconds, just inputting minor seconds randomly in solos. Well, I shouldn't say randomly, but wherever I feel like it could use more dissonance. So I go from here, make sure to ring both out, because I want to hear that dissonance. Here I go to the 9th, major 7, and end up on the 13. All together. Next, I needed some way to get back into when the progression turns back around to the beginning. So I play that little lick, which it just sounds cool. I don't really have a big, deep explanation for it. It just sounds cool to me. And I really like the sound of, again, going from here into the major sound to that E natural. And then here I do a little bit more of polymeter work. I do groupings of 5 again, because again, I was really into inputting groupings of 5 into my playing. And what I wanted to do was basically make an entire measure just groupings of 5, or groupings of like unusual note groupings in some way. So I did a little bit of 5. Again, I kind of improvised this part when I was recording it just to see how it felt. And I ended up coming up with this. And that all fits in within the 19. As far as the note choices, I'm thinking C major this whole time. But But I also like the sound of adding that A flat, which is definitely not in C major. So that essentially gets us a C major scale with a flat 6. Or harmonic major, I believe would be the actual name of that scale. So I input that in. When I get to here, I just bring everything up a half step. Just because I felt like going outside. So those are just straight up outside notes. That's just straight up wrong notes. But because I do it very quickly, it doesn't really affect the sound of it. Obviously, if I landed here and just stayed there, it would sound kind of strange over the progression. But I just go, and then back down. So it gives you a moment of tension, like, oh, where are we going now? And then it just goes back and resolves. Right after that lick. I just end with a nice little A-flat Lydian thing, and I wanted to make it sound seamless, like the solo's not stopping even though the time signature is turning back around. And then at the very end, I just end it with a nice, simple blues lick. Nice little bow on top to finish it up. But yeah, that's basically my process of writing solos using kind of the knowledge I know and coming up with ideas to make it sound the way exactly how I want to make it kind of challenging for the listener, make it sound jazzy like I was requested, and also just making it fun to play in general, because this is a really fun solo for me to play. So that's pretty much it for me. Thank you again to Celestial Ember for having me on as a guest soloist. Also, I've been lately recording a lot of my own material, and I'm hoping to eventually, I can't promise it'll come out anytime soon, but I'm hoping to eventually start releasing some of my own personal music that I've had saved up for years, but just haven't had a chance to use. But anyways, that's it for me. Hopefully you learned something from this, and I will catch you all in the next video. Later.